Hey guys, Duke DeLate for the Intimacy Liberation Army, and today we are talking about how to practice self-acceptance. I've got 4 or 5 tips for self-acceptance in general and a couple of journal exercises if you want to go download those things. Let's get started. So self-acceptance is the practice of accepting and loving yourself, right? There's a bunch of different ways to describe self throughout psychological literature and self-help stuff, but assume that your perception of who you are is yourself for the purposes of this video, and you want to accept yourself, including your imperfections and your flaws. It's really important to your mental health, to your emotional well-being, that you can feel more confident and more comfortable just being you in your own skin. You hear all of this advice as we're growing older to, just be yourself. Like, people will like you as long as you're authentic with who you are, and as long as you have some sort of vulnerability, people can really connect to your realness, and you don't need to put up a front or need to act a certain way or fake it because people could smell that and they don't trust you and whatever. This is fine. It's great. Except for some of the things that you judge yourself for being, you don't allow that stuff out to be judged, because judgment has its own level of pain to it. A lot of times that pain is obviously more dangerous in our own heads than it is in real life. And one of the biggest problems for self-development really is holding yourself back, not taking action, not doing the behavior you're supposed to be doing because you have some sort of fear of judgment. Judgment from your parents, judgment from the people around you, judgment from future you, judgment from past you. It keeps you from moving forward, keeps you from failing, keeps you from making mistakes and learning from those mistakes, keeps you from entering dangerous situations and getting the emotional fortitude to deal with those dangerous situations socially and intellectually. So it actually pays off more to be comfortable with who you are, even though you're not necessarily meeting your own ideals, and even though you're not perfect, even though you're not quite where you want to be. So here's some tips for actually practicing accepting yourself, even your flaws. The most important one, I think, number one, I should be going backwards so that I increase my watch time on this video. Sorry, the least important, no. The most important one is to practice gratitude. I've read a whole bunch of books on gratitude. I've studied it for a long time. I got a lot out of, what's his name? Jack Kornfield with a K. He wrote a book called The Wise Heart, and this girl I was in love with a while back, she gave me the book because she thought I would like it, and I never gave it back. So, but Jack Kornfield was one of these Western psychologists who went off to Thailand or whatever, experienced the Buddhist monk life, and came back and sort of merged Buddhist culture or Buddhist thought with Western psychology. And him and what's his name, Paul Ekman, they're both really good at this, like mindfulness, fucking gratitude, present moment talk in a way that isn't all weird, airy-fairy, and woo-woo. So I started practicing gratitude after I read Kornfield's book. What I do is I went down to Thailand for one of my workshops, and I bought a mala. It's one of those things of beads. It's 108 beads, whatever, and they use it to pray. And I would just start in the morning, and I would pick, I'm grateful for this, and I'd sort of fully associate it with it, and I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for this. And I go all the way through the list, and it would kind of put my mind in the right spot so that as I moved through the rest of the day, I focused on the things that mattered rather than I was less problem focused and more solution focused, more things I was grateful focused. And it worked out for me for a long time until I broke it and all the beads went everywhere. I have little beads here that sometimes I do that anyway with from the rave. But I watched Huberman's podcast, and he was talking about actually visualizing doing something and having somebody else be grateful is more advantageous to the brain than it is to imagine things that you're grateful for. So check out Huberman's Gratefulness Project. I'll probably link it in this card here so that you can watch kind of like how he explains gratitude. It was really pretty fascinating. But gratitude is one of the best ways to kind of get your focus out from your own perfection and put your focus on things that are outside of yourself and your problems. What you focus on manifests, kind of. So if you're focusing on problems, then the problems get bigger. They take up your view, they take up your frame. And if you focus on the things that you're grateful for, the opportunities that you have, then those things take up a bigger view. And that's just, it's not woo-woo, it's not weird, it's just kind of how it works. So I find that really, really helpful, especially to start my day and my morning routine with some sense of gratitude. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm imagining the things that I've done for the last month for other people and how they were grateful for it, and imagining their reactions and how I'm sort of receiving the thanks for the things that I've done, and imagining myself receiving gratitude is what I've been practicing for the last month or so, because Huberman had some good arguments on it. But either way, whatever you want to do to put focus on the gratitude side of your life, you're going to do way better than focusing on your limits or your limiting beliefs. So, there's a quote from activist Mary Davis. She was really into a lot of things, but dealing with women's and children's rights. And she said, the more grateful I am, the more beauty I see. And yeah, same for me. I agree. Tip number 2 of self-acceptance is to be kind to yourself. This kind of goes along in lines with, I was thinking about it a lot because I was reading 12 Rules for Life. I was listening to Audible. It's Jordan Peterson wrote that book, and I refer to him a lot because I've been just kind of focused on a lot of things that he's been saying. So he says, treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping. And that's how he kind of worded it in the book. But over the years, as he's put out YouTube stuff, it's like, treat yourself as somebody who mattered, or treat yourself as somebody you care about. Like he said the same kind of concept multiple times. And this one is as someone you were responsible for helping. And if you're kind to yourself and you're not super judgmental, you just say, if your buddy or your child or your partner had screwed up in the way that you thought that you had screwed up, you would probably not tear them a new asshole like you do for yourself. You would probably have a little bit of compassion and kindness in the way that you talk to them. And if you talk to them that way, then why don't you talk to yourself that way? You got to be understanding and not judgmental about the time you make mistakes, about how you fuck up, because, we all make mistakes, and often by making those mistakes, that's when you're going to actually learn how to deal with it in real time. So the mistakes are pretty advantageous as long as, they're not providing more problems than they are. So being hard on yourself just doesn't work. I think I'll cover that in the next point. But it's from a behavioral motivation perspective, it doesn't even make sense to beat yourself up, because it doesn't help you actually solve the problem. The next time, if you fuck up, you're more likely to avoid the situation where you fucked up if you beat yourself up than you are to correct your behavior because you beat yourself up and do it differently next time around. It's not an effective way of creating behavioral change. So be nice to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Have some compassion when you talk to yourself. When your self-talk is abusive, you may have that problem because you modeled it from somebody who was one of your caretakers, that whenever you fuck up and they're abusive to you, then that's what happens to you. When you fuck up, you're abusive to you, because that's how you learned how to deal with fucking up. It doesn't work, so stop doing it. And I know that's easier said than done, but sometimes it's just as simple as focusing on a different way of framing the situation. And look at the things that you've done right, things that you've done well, and then look at a constructive way on how to do it better. Next, when I was working with The Attractive Man, one of Matt's hardcore concepts was like, okay, what went well, and how could I take it further next time? And those are the only two questions he asked. He didn't be like, how did I fuck this up, or whatever. So I taught for them for, I don't know, 10 years or something, and I just over and over again in each of the workshops, it's like guys would be like, well, she was standing there, and then I should have this, and I should have that, and da-da-da. No, that's not what I asked you. What went well? Well, I did show up, and nobody else did, and I did what I said I was going to do, and she did respond, and she didn't really tell me to go fuck myself, right? Okay, well, how do you think you could take it further next time? Oh, I should probably do it without, hesitating or whatever. And having the focus on the solutions and having the focus on what went well in the situation would change their mind on, interrupt the pattern of them spiraling downward of self-abuse. And as far as self-acceptance is concerned, as I think one of the most practical things you can do is to just interrupt your pattern of self-abuse and allow the reality to show you the reference experience, to show you what's actually going on in real life, not your picture of how badly you failed and what that means about you. Tip number three is accept your imperfections. Nobody's perfect. You know this. I know this. Everybody knows this. Like, you have some of the best people in the world doing things, and you have all sorts of shit you could talk about them. Like, who's that guy? Elon. Like, he's doing crazy shit. He's changing the entire electric car industry, and he's doing all of this great things for the environment, but he's also doing bad things for the environment, and he's also sending things into space, and he's also like working too hard and having a bunch of babies with people that don't stay around, and like there's all these things that you can talk about, but his net effect in the world when he's dead, whether you like him or not, is going to be rather tremendous. And as long as he keeps moving forward and not getting himself into some sort of weird scandal, he will probably be remembered as one of the best innovators in a century. Like, it's just what it is. The things that you're going to do and give back to the world, especially when you hit your generativity state, you're gonna do some great shit, and it's not gonna matter that you fucked up a little bit along the way. If there's somebody else in the world that is perfect, they have the right to judge you, but if not, their judgment doesn't mean much, really. And your self-judgment doesn't mean much, because what the fuck do you know? Like, you know yourself so well or whatever, but when you don't do what you said you're going to do, and then you judge yourself and you beat yourself up for it, you're not really the authority on winning in that space. So, like, why are you judging yourself? It's dumb. It's okay to be imperfect. And even if it's not okay to be imperfect, bitching about your imperfections isn't going to help you be more perfect next time. I just talked about all that. Like, it's not a behavioral motivation thing to, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, it's not a behavioral motivation. It doesn't work to beat yourself up. So bagging on your imperfections doesn't really help anything. You can look for ways to get better, look for ways to take it further, look for ways to do it a little bit more tight and more succinctly next time, but there's no reason to beat yourself up. Tip number 4, practice self-care. This is in a lot of my videos because, again, if you've seen some of the other ones, I won't rehash it all, but your diet, your exercise, your sleep levels, they all affect your mood, and they all affect what you have access to in your brain. They all affect how sharp you are, how present you are, how available to get into a flow state you are. And if you don't take care of that stuff, it can affect you without you even knowing what's going on. You're a little lack of sleep, and you can't access things in your brain, and you're like not speaking well and not communicating the right concepts, not being able to access the parts that are really going to help somebody out in front of you. you're lost, and all you had to do was sleep 2 more hours and not, manage your anxiety. Like you practice self-care. And like I said, I have a book about self-care that's coming out, and I don't know when it's coming out. I think it's February, but I'll link it in the show notes when it's available. And then tip number 5 is seek support if needed. You got a friend, you got a family member, you got a therapist, you got mental health professionals around you. If you have a problem with accepting yourself for who you are, talk to somebody else, get an outside opinion. Because generally, if you don't like yourself for some reason or another, if you hate yourself, you're going to move into a downward spiral of not liking yourself, and just relying on you and isolating is not going to help you get out of that spiral. That's just not how it works. You need an outside opinion. You need somebody to tell you, hey, bro, you're wrong. Like, you're fucking up. So, or you're okay. Like, you're fucking up by judging yourself, but you're okay. Like, if you think everybody's judging you, they're not. They're too concerned about themselves, blah, blah, blah. Somebody needs to tell you that from an outside perspective, somebody that you trust. So find a friend, a family member, a therapist, or whatever, to give you support when you have these issues. So that was 5 tips on developing better self-acceptance and how to practice. I got a worksheet you can go through. It's a PDF. You can go to the link in the description, download it. Give me your email address. I'll give you a little email, a couple days of emails that say, hey, here's self-acceptance. Let's focus on this. And then it'll drop you back into the main broadcast where you get notified about all of our stuff. So yeah, click the link, go get the worksheet, do some of the worksheet in your journaling. And if you have any questions, hit them in the comments, and I will see you tomorrow because we do this every day. And until then, stay awesome.